Hello, my name is Matthias and welcome to the FPL Scope and this video where I'll take a look at some of you guys' teams. Some of my viewers have sent in their team IDs and I'm going to check out their team from Game Week 30 and try to guide you guys all the way up until Game Week 38 to finish off the season in style and get the desired rank that you want currently in FPL. We have 4 managers, so let's just go through each one of them first, one by one, and then we're going to go through the plans for each manager after that. So first up we have Domenico DeLuca, and we have to give props to the name once again, like we did the last time we had the video like this. I said that I really liked one of the names. I can't remember the name off the top of my head now, but Domenico DeLuca is certainly up there as one of the better names that I've seen ever, basically. Really good alliteration, 2 really nice names as well. Domenico DeLuca rolls off the tongue. So yeah, credits to anyone to the people that named you, your parents most likely. But either way, with that out of the way, I also think you deserve some credits for a team that is pretty nice looking for Game Week 30, despite having not free hitted in Game Week 29. I think this is a team that is serviceable without a wildcard straight away. You can save your wildcard for Game Week 31. You have the triple Spurs players, which are really good. You have triple Aston Villa against Wolves. I do expect Aston Villa to be better than Wolves in that game as well. Bowen against Newcastle away, I think it's a pretty sneaky pick this week. I know a lot of people are selling him this week, and I think that might be a mistake because I think Bowen against Newcastle without Botman in defense as well now, and just being a really bad defensive team and Bowen being in really fine form and playing really well for England as well, I think it's going to be a good option there as well. But also on the flip side, Newcastle guys, Fabian Schär and Gordon. Schär has some upside when it comes to attacking returns, and Gordon at home is just always really good, and West Ham are pretty bad at not conceding goals, so Gordon seems like a good pick there as well. Even now in Tony, who's like one of the lesser players in this team, plays against Man United at home. We've seen him show up in big games before, but he's been pretty bad lately. But yeah, he could score, he could get a penalty, who knows. Brentford have had some nice results against Man United in the past as well, so maybe it's time for Tony to shine as well. But I think this team will survive Game Week 30 without a wildcard, which will be nice, because I think the wildcard team in Game Week 30 would be kind of similar, maybe a bit less, not as good as this team. And I think just a week extra you get with extra information, you get to see if Darwin Núñez gets a yellow card and is closer to his 10 yellow cards and a 2-game suspension. You can get some injuries, you can get a lot of things happening in 1 week. I think it's just nice to save your wildcard since you already have a pretty good team for Game Week 30. So I think that's the immediate thoughts that I have when I'm looking at this team. 1,649 overall points, just inside the top million. I think with my advice, hopefully you can push on to be inside the top 500k with ease. Maybe even push into the top 100k. That would be really nice, I think. But all in all, I think this team is pretty well set up. You also have wildcard left, bench boost, and free hit left, which is a really nice place to be at. So yeah, pretty good team for the first team that we have here from Domenico DeLuca, which once again is a fantastic name. Number 2, we have David Gulbrandsson, which is also a fine name, I guess, from Iceland, which is really nice to see. Managers from all over the world watching my content. Love that, basically. This team has free hidden in Game Week 29, which means that they have a lot of good players in Game Week 30 as well already. Do have a lot of players from the same match in Arsenal against Man City, but again, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. The worst that can happen in that match is 1-1 and like goal scores that you don't really care about, but Gabriel could get points in that game, Foden can get points in that game, De Bruyne could get points in that game, Saka and Haaland obviously can get points in that game. Maybe not at the same time, but still, I think it's a decent team. Maybe De Bruyne is someone to be shipped out because he didn't play for Belgium at all this international break. He's been struggling a bit with injuries. I do think he's going to start for what it's worth, but I think you can get a pretty good player in his place, which will give you a lot of money because, yeah, talking about Cole Palmer, obviously, who's a really good asset to have this week. So I think this team is perfectly fine. Bradley as well, he's going to play now the next 2 matches, it seems like, because it seems like Trent Alexander-Arnold is out until Game Week 32 when they play Man United. And that means that Bradley gets to play against Brighton at home and then Sheffield United at home next week as well, which is really nice to see in general, this team. But also a lot of good template picks for teams that are not free hitting in 34, because you have Watkins, who you can have for this week and then sell for someone like Darwin next week. You have Solanke, who's perfectly nice, even one of the better strikers to have currently in the game. Really good fixtures in the immediate future, and then also has a double game week in Game Week 34. So same goes for Sabarni, has the same matches, decent player as well. Saliba, Gabriel, you already have the triple Arsenal, which is going to be really nice all the way up until Game Week 34. So yeah, I think this team is pretty well set up as well. And as you can see, 113k overall, really nice rank. Maybe this team could push up and get into the top 10k. That is still within the realms of possibilities with 1,758 points at this point. Have used both bench boost and free hit, which is interesting, but I think triple captaincy can come into play here with this manager as well. So that's going to be interesting to see what you can do with triple captaincy rather than doing a bench boost. So that's going to affect what happens with this team going forward as well, which is it's nice to see. It's a bit of a different team compared to the first one, and we have actually 4 pretty different teams with 4 pretty different tactics that you can set up for the future game weeks in FPL as well. So that's going to be interesting to see towards the end of the season. Also just want to make a quick note that it seems like, judging from these 4 teams at least, that free hitting in 29 means you have a better rank. It's not really because of Gaming 29, obviously, because Gaming 29 was terrible for anyone, whether you're free hitted or not. But it seems like if you had a really good team going into Gaming 29 and then you free hit it into a different team, you are in a pretty good position currently. And I think the same could be said if you have done the opposite way, and if you did not free hit in 29, you could still be at a really good rank and have a decent outlook for the future. But I don't know, from what I've seen at least, most managers that free hit it in 29 have pretty good ranks, at least among the teams that I've seen, basically. But yeah, nice team. You have 2 chips left, wildcard and triple captain. Going to be interesting to see what you can do with those 2 chips, and we're going to talk about that pretty soon as well. But let's just go through the other 2 teams that we have to talk about for this video as well. Number 3, we have Justin Long back again. He was featured in this type of video the last time I did this, which was back in game week 25, 26 or something. I don't know, 24, I don't know. Leading up to game week 29, basically. I made a similar video to this where I went through 4 different teams or 3 different teams. I can't remember exactly how many teams I did back then. And their plans leading up to the blank game week 29, basically. And this team as well has not used the free hit, has not used the chip at all, basically. This season, wildcard left, triple captain left, bench boost left, and free hit left. That's going to be really interesting to see what you can do with that mixture of chips. Overall rank of about 1 million. Again, could easily get into the top 500k, potentially top 100k if you're lucky, or if you follow this advice, hopefully. But yeah, the team currently compared to Domenico DeLuca, not looking so good for Game Week 30. So I think this is a pretty nice team to use your wildcard in, use your first chip of the second half of the season at least, and get a fully new team in for Game Week 30. I think immediately looking at this team is just Estupinian against Liverpool away, Doughty against Spurs away. That's terrible. Barkley and Spurs away, that's not good. Douglas Luiz against Wolves at home could be a good fixture, could be a surprise package there. Douglas Luiz has been really good at home. Bailey has been pretty good at home as well, but I think you can get better players than those guys as well if you are wildcarding straight away. So yeah, I would probably advise a wildcard, but at the same time, Udogi, Son, the triple Aston Villa guys, they might do really well, so who knows. But yeah, I think this is a team that could easily use your wildcard to improve immediately. That's my first thoughts when it comes to this team. And then the 4th and final team is Tom Kirkman with Saka Rice, and this is also a team that free hit in Game Week 29, and again, 48k overall, or 49k almost overall, 1,784 points. Really nice at this point of the season to have that type of team. You already have Palmer in place as well. You don't have the immediate money to get Salah at any point in Game Week 30, which might be a bad thing, but at the same time, I think going with Son as captain or Palmer as captain even in this game week could be just as good as going with Salah as captain. So I don't think Salah is essential for Game Week 30. I would advise to have him if you can get to him, because I think he's the best captaincy option this week. But Son and Palmer could easily outscore him and be the better captaincy choices as well. So it's not a huge detriment to the team that you don't have Salah yet, and you can easily get him in for Game Week 31 looking at his team as well. So yeah, I think this team is pretty good. There are a few things that you can do immediately as well to help your team, and I'm going to go through that pretty soon now in the video. Now that we talked about all 4 teams, we can actually go into each specific team and look at their outlook for the game weeks between Game Week 30 and Game Week 38 to finish off this season in style, like I mentioned at the start of this video. We're starting with Domenico DeLuca's team, and this team did not free hit in Game Week 29, but they still have a really good team in Game Week 30, like I just mentioned. So no wildcarding in Game Week 30, but we have some plans going into the future for this team. So let's go into the website called fpl.team, and we can plan out the future moves for this team. Game Week 30, like I said, no wildcard. You can only do 1 transfer, I guess, or you could do more transfers technically and do hits and stuff, but I think only 1 transfer is needed, and that is to do Leon Bailey to Mohamed Salah. You have the best captaincy option there in Salah. If you do this move, you have enough money in the bank to bring him in as well comfortably. And you have a pretty sick team in general, I think. Maybe Palmer would be ideal to have in this team for Chelsea, playing against Burnley, I think, in this fixture. Probably really good, but for -4 hit, I don't think it's worth it to sell either Bowen or Gordon to bring in Palmer, because I think Bowen and Gordon can do really well this game week as well. Bowen against Newcastle, which are a really bad defense this season, especially now with Botman injured as well, not going to help Newcastle's defensive efforts. And Gordon against West Ham, who are pretty bad defensively by themselves. So I think this could be a pretty high-scoring game, and having both Bowen and Gordon is not the worst for this fixture. I think selling Bowen this week is kind of risky. I think a lot of people will regret it, so I don't think you need to do that, especially for -4. But ideally, probably would have Palmer instead of one of those guys. But for -4, I don't think it's worth it. So sticking with this team, I think it's a pretty good team. Triple Spurs, double Aston Villa against Wolves at home as well. Should be a really good fixture for them. And like I said, Bowen and Gordon, I like them as well. Tony against Man United, not the best, but it's not the worst either. So I think it's pretty good. And you can still keep Watkins for another game week, which is, I think, a plus for anyone that anyone that is wildcarding game week 30, that you would lose Watkins this game week, because I think he's going to have a pretty good game week by himself as well. Going on to game week 31, and obviously we're using the wildcard here. 10 transfers for the team. Some players have kept their place, including the likes of Fabian Schär and Pedro Porro, who have been in this team for a long while. Fabian Schär has been in this team since game week 6, so there's a lot of value tied up into Schär because he's gone up from 5.0 to 5.5 during the course of the season. So I think he's actually a pretty nice season keeper for this team as well, because he is a pretty good defender. He can get a goal here and there. We know Newcastle have that double game week in 37, which we're targeting with Fabian Schär. He's going to play every game. He's pretty much completely nailed for Newcastle, and can score some goals as well. So I really like him in general. Pedro Porro, I would probably normally choose Udogie, but since you have money tied into Pedro Porro, he could be a really good option, especially if Maddison gets injured again, which happens quite a lot. You can have Porro on set pieces as well, which is when his value is even higher than Udogie. So I think keeping Porro is also nice for this team. Apart from that as well, you get to keep the Arsenal boys for at least the Luton fixture, and then another fixture against Brighton after that as well. I think that's pretty nice. Gabriel and Saka for Luton at home. It's going to be a really nice fixture for them. So it's nice to keep them for this wildcard as well. You still get Darwin in this team. Maybe you want to go with a different striker that plays double game week in 37, because you are free hitting in 34 anyway, so you don't really need Darwin. But having Darwin at home to Sheffield United just seems like a really good deal as well. Even though it's not necessary, because maybe Darwin will miss out for because he wants to be rested, for example, in this game. Who knows? Maybe they want to get through a couple more games without him getting yellow cards and stuff. So maybe he gets only like 30 minutes on the pitch here to minimize the chances of him getting yellow cards and stuff. Who knows what's going to happen really? But ideally, he's going to be on just 8 yellow cards still and be able to get a hold of himself and not get 10 yellow cards before game week 33, which would mean that he would not get a ban for this season. So I think Darwin ideally would still be the best striker to have in game week 31 on a wildcard. So really like this team. We're keeping Schär and Porro, like I mentioned, and I think it's a pretty strong team for the future, especially with free hits game week 34 in mind. Moving on to game week 32, no transfers this game week at all. Pretty strong team still, I think. You still have the Arsenal guys against Brighton. They're going to be leaving the team pretty soon, though, as we'll see in the next slide, basically. Not too much to talk about with the game of 32. I think Son is the best captaincy choice, probably playing at home. Maybe Palmer playing against Sheffield United. Maybe Salah against Man United. He has a good track record against Man United. There's a lot of captaincy options there, but I think Son is the standout still. But don't pay too much attention to the captaincy choices, because that's probably not going to be entirely accurate every week, and it's going to change a lot as well over the course of the season. Who's in form, which teams are doing well currently. There's a lot of things that can affect what happens with captaincy, so I don't think you really need to worry too much about that. You can make that decision when you come to that game week, basically. Game week 33, we do 2 transfers for this team, and that is switching out the Arsenal boys. Gabriel goes out, Van Hecke comes in. Pretty easy move for cost-cutting reasons as well. Getting Van Hecke against Burnley, that's a pretty good fixture for him. And it's really cheap for the future as well, since you're free hitting in 34 and you need to maximize your profits basically on this team. You also get Foden in for Saka. Foden playing against Luton at home, which is a really good fixture, assuming he starts. You could also hold off on this transfer potentially and do another transfer if you get early team news about Foden not starting, because that is that Game Week 33 game for Luton against Luton at home is between two Real Madrid games in the Champions League for Man City. So maybe Foden gets rested for this game. And if that's the case, you don't want to sell Saka for Foden in this game week. But hopefully we get some early team news. And if those early team news say that Foden is going to start against Luton at home, I think it's a pretty easy move to do Saka to Foden this game week as well, seeing as you don't really need the Arsenal guys when you're free hitting in 34 anyways and can bring them back for that game week, and then you don't have them for the rest of the season where they don't have a double game week after that. So I think that makes sense for transfer moves in game week 33 as well. Game 34, it's the free hit, and this is currently what I would do on a free hit. Maybe you want to attack it even more when it comes to Crystal Palace, because that's going to be the team to target if you're on a free hit. Most people that don't free hit will not have that many Crystal Palace players. Maybe they'll have SA and that's it. So you could double up with SA and Olise, for example, if Olise is back fit. And if that's the case as well, I think Crystal Palace will look a lot more enticing going forward as well. So you could get an advantage having Olise here. You could also go with someone like Mateta rather than Cunha. I think if Olise comes in, you obviously make it a 5-man midfield, and then you switch Cunha off to the bench basically. And you have a really strong team for Game Week 34 using your free hit, which could outscore normal players like myself, or normal players, I should say, players that or managers that do this the normal way without any chips, basically. You can have an advantage over those guys if you have both of those Crystal Palace guys, if they're fully fit and ready to play this game week. But yeah, I think this is the strongest team. You could make a case for Jota maybe over Darwin, and again depends on team use and outlook for the season. Trent is going to be back at this point, I think, fully fit as well. So Trent, Salah, Darwin, I think is a really nice triple up there. I think Martinelli is a really underrated prospect for the free hitting Game Week 34. I think he can do wonders in a single game week. He's shown that before, that he can have really high scores. So I think he's a really nice upside pick as well. He's most likely going to play both matches for Arsenal on top of that. So yeah, I quite like this team with attacking fullbacks as well. Trent, Alexander-Arnold, Aït-Nouri, and Munoz. It's kind of what you want for a double game week, where clean sheets maybe not as easy to come by because you are going to play a lot of teams that play each other, for example. So yeah, having players that are attacking in defense is also really nice on a double game week, I think. Game 35, we have one transfer, and that is going from Darwin to Isak. Darwin has finished this double game week and all that stuff. And Isak has Sheffield United at home this game week and has double game week Game 37, obviously. Really good fixtures for him. Could do someone like Højlund instead of Isak. It depends how it's looking with Wilson and Isak compared to each other, if Isak is still fit. Or if Wilson is looking to be back soon, maybe you want to go with someone like Højlund instead. But I think both are good options. You still have some nice money in the bank as well. Newcastle defenders as well against Sheffield United at home. Really nice fixture for them. On top of that, there's also a benching decision here between Son and Cunha, I think. Cunha against Luton at home, I think he has that hat-trick potential potentially here. Garnacho as well against Burnley at home. Garnacho, Cunha versus Son. It depends how Son is looking, basically. If Richarlison's in the team now and Son is playing at this point, and Son is playing out on the left and not producing as much as he did previously, it would be easier to bench him, obviously. But yeah, this would be a really hard benching decision as well. So maybe you just want to stick with Darwin and bench him instead, and just save that transfer for the future game week. You could do that as well if you really want to start Son in this game. But he is playing Arsenal, after all, the best defense in the league. So I think there's some arguments to bench in this game week. Game week 36, we also have another single free transfer, and looking at my notes here, that is doing Van Hecke to Udogie to have that double game week fixture for Spurs with Udogie and Pedro Porro in defense there. On top of Son, you also have Gusto, Petrovic, and Palmer doubling up for Chelsea. So you have 6 double game week players in game week 36 without using a hit, and you have some pretty good players in these positions as well. So really good team. Again, you could start Fabian Schär over someone like Garnacho, for example. Again, it's up to you. Doesn't really matter that much. But yeah, I think this is a pretty good team for Game Week 36. Game 37, another game week where we do one free transfer. Sorry. I had to clear my throat there a little bit. And the one free transfer here is Cunha to Højlund. We have enough money in the bank to do that. So we have Højlund on top of Isak at this point. So this is a really nice team to bench boost with. We're still keeping Salah, which might be controversial, but I think Salah for Game Week 38 is going to be really nice to have. So yeah, I think the one transfer to do Cunha, who has a single game week in or out, and then Højlund, who has a double game week in, makes sense for Game Week 37 basically for this team. And the bench boost and Salah away to Aston Villa is not the worst fixture anyway. He could outscore a lot of double game week players this game week, and he's just nice to keep for the foreseeable future anyway. And you have the money in the bank to do so as well with this team. So I think you have a pretty nice team for this game week. Then finally, Game Week 38, and you have the one free transfer here as well. And this is basically up to interpretation. The one free transfer here would be Isak to Darwin, because I think Liverpool might be chasing at least, or maybe they're chasing the title in this game. If that's the case, Darwin at home to Wolves seems like it's a really nice fixture. But here you can just save your transfers and basically try to attack the fixtures for Liverpool and Arsenal, because those teams are not going to be that common with people that wildcard in Game Week 35 who are not free hitting in 34. So yeah, you could try to target Arsenal and Liverpool players specifically here, because they have really good fixtures in that final game week. So that's pretty much it for Domenico DeLuca and his team. I think it's looking pretty good in general. I think this team could easily push into the top maybe 100k. And yeah, I really like this team in general for the foreseeable future. And it's going to be exciting to see how it ends up doing in this Premier League season as well. Let's move on to David Gulbrandsson's team, and he has free hit in Game Week 29 and has no bench boost left, which is the interesting thing about this team. So that's going to make the wildcard in Game Week 35 a bit different to what you usually would do if you have your bench boost left, because you don't have to worry about having 15 players for Game Week 37 where you can bench boost, because you're not going to bench boost, you're going to use the triple captaincy chip instead. So you can have some different players here, which will be good for Game Week 38 especially, and maybe even 36 and 35 as well. So let's take a look at what happens with this team in the next few game weeks. So again, we're going into FPL.team, and we're again doing the same thing as earlier, where we do the transfer moves that I would do between Game Week 30 and Game Week 38. Starting with the first move, which would be KDB, Kevin De Bruyne to Cole Palmer. I mentioned how he would be a nice player to have in Game Week 30. This team is kind of the opposite, not able to afford Salah for just a straight up fee of one free transfer. You could again do a hit here and bring in Salah for someone like Foden or Son. You can't even afford him for Foden basically, so you would have to sell Son against Luton at home for a -4 hit to bring in Salah, and I don't think that would be worth it. So for this team, I would just do KDB to Palmer, and that's it, basically. Save yourself some money for the future. You could do a -4 to upgrade your defense, I guess. Gabriel against Man City away. Again, not ideal. The goalkeeper is not ideal, but I don't think doing a -4 is that important to do for like a defensive transfer especially, or if you have such a good midfield or attack as you have in this instance. So just the one transfer will do for Game Week 30, and this is obviously a team that is has free hitted now and has a pretty good team for the next 4 game weeks, including, or the next 5 game weeks, including Game Week 35, or Game Week 34, I should say. In Game Week 31, we do 2 transfers, and we're actually going to take a hit for this matter, because I think Salah against Sheffield United at home is much more important to get. And also selling Watkins, playing against Man City away, to bring in Darwin against Sheffield United at home seems like a really good move. And when you do that, you have enough money to do Foden to Salah as well, which will be really nice for this team. So Salah comes in against Sheffield United at home. You also have the Arsenal boys against Luton at home, which is really nice. Saliba, Gabriel, and Saka against those guys. Bradley against Sheffield United at home, also a really good fixture for him, assuming Trent Alexander-Arnold is still out at this point, which I think he will be. And you also have Solanke, who's going to be a really good option at this point as well. So I think this team is looking really, really strong. Maybe the only thing I would change on a free hit even would be a goalkeeper change. But Dubravka against Everton at home shouldn't be too bad, or even Flecking against Brighton at home if you have to play him either. So really strong team. -4 is not ideal, obviously, but that's something you have to do to bring in Darwin rather than having Watkins, and then having enough money to get in Salah as well in the midfield. So I think that's a pretty easy decision for Game Week 31. Then we go to Game Week 32, and we have one more free transfer, and that would be Bradley from Liverpool, who would lose his place at this point, because I think Trent Alexander-Arnold will be back in the team. They're also facing Man United away, so that's not the best fixture. And then you're bringing in Aït-Nouri, who's going to be a really nice player to have for the future, and also the double game week in 34 as well. So he plays for West Ham at home in this fixture, and also has the double game week in 34. So I think he makes sense for a transfer in Game Week 32. Moving on to Game Week 33, we're rolling the free transfer to have 2 free transfers. So Game Week 34 for the week where we're not going to free hit, because we don't have a free hit available with this team. So yeah, no free transfers in this game week. I think the team is still looking really, really strong with Son, Palmer, Salah, Saka, the ideal midfield basically to have at that point, and then Haaland, Darwin, Solanke. Again, really good striker options there as well. So again, you have a decision here between Solanke and Garnacho. You could choose the Man United guy if you want to back Man United over Bournemouth, but that's entirely up to you as well. It doesn't really matter to me. At this point, you could choose either Solanke or Garnacho. Both are good options at this point, basically, in Game Week 34. We're saving a free transfer for Game Week 34 because we can do 2 here, and we sell Son because we're going to use our wildcard in 35 anyway and be able to bring him back. So we're selling Son to bring in SA, who has a really good fixture this game week, and we know he's going to be most likely going to be fit for this game week as well. And that leaves us enough money to upgrade our defenders and get Trent Alexander-Arnold in the defense as well in for... let me check here, double check. The player we are selling is Sabarni from Bournemouth. So that's even a luxury transfer because Sabarni has a double game week against Aston Villa away and Wolves away. But I think getting Trent Alexander-Arnold instead is enough of an upgrade to do that. And as you can see from this team, it's only the goalkeepers. Maybe you could do a goalkeeper transfer instead of doing that defensive transfer. But I think going from Sabarni to Trent is more value than going from Fleck into someone like Allison, for example, because I think Trent has that super high potential if he gets assists and clean sheets and goals potentially in this game week. So I think he is a really nice transfer to get in here, seeing as we're selling Son and freeing up funds by buying SA this game week. Then game week 35, this is going to be a kind of a different walker than what I would usually do if I had a bench boosting game week 37. As you can see, we have Saka and Gabriel, for example. We also have Muniz, who's a nice option here. Again, you have a benching decision for Son. If you want to bench him against Arsenal or not, you can start him, or you could start Muniz or Garnacho. It's a hard decision. You could also bench Saka if you prefer Tottenham at home to Arsenal, rather than Saka, who hasn't been the best away from home as well, at least historically. So there's another benching decision for you, but I think this is a strong team regardless. And you also have Leno in goal just because you don't really need a double game week player in game week 37 in goal. So you can have Leno instead playing against Crystal Palace at home, which is a pretty decent fixture for him as well. So yeah, nice wildcard here in game week 35, and you have some flexibility going forward into the future as well, because you have your triple captaincy chip left and not your bench boost chip left. Then game week 36, no free transfers basically. You have triple Spurs already, you have triple Chelsea already, you have that covered. On top of that, you have 2 Arsenal boys against Bournemouth at home. Really nice advantage there with Saka against Bournemouth at home, Gabriel against Bournemouth at home as well. Really nice fixtures for them. And then you have Salah, Højlund, and Haaland on top of that. And you also have Muniz against Brentford away. If you prefer Muniz over someone like Højlund, for example, you could do that. Or if you think Salah will struggle against Tottenham for some reason, or if you want to maximize your profits and not have a player playing against your double Spurs defense, then maybe you can bench Salah this game week as well. But I think I would start Salah pretty much in any game week where he doesn't have, or where he has as many games as his potential starting replacements instead. So yeah, no free transfers in game week 36, but that means you have 2 free transfers in game week 37. And for what it's worth, I can't really see many transfers to do here. So the only transfer I've done is Leno to Ortega just to save money. And this is also the point of the season where maybe Ortega gets some matches. This happens pretty much every season, it seems like. Ortega gets some matches randomly towards the end of the season. So maybe we get some weeks that Ortega is going to start the last 3 games of the season, or if even for game week 38 as a future transfer, because we're going to get some team news for game week 38, Ortega would be a nice option. But apart from the fact that he could potentially start for City, he's also the cheapest possible goalkeeper, so you save enough money to have an upgrade basically anywhere else. It just depends on what happens with the team. Maybe Gusto has dropped out of favor for Reece James at this point, and you can bring in someone like Disasi here for that extra money, or you can bring in any defender you want basically that has a double game week especially. So yeah, you have a lot of flexibility in this spot as well with this team. And the same flexibility goes on to game week 38 as well, because you always have 2 free transfers, and again you can do whatever you want with this team. But again, you also have really good players already. You have the double Arsenal players that a lot of players will, or a lot of managers won't be able to have. Gabriel and Saka here. You also have Salah for this game week ready to go. You could potentially get Darwin in for Højlund. At this point, you have the money in the bank to do that as well. Or you could get someone like Callum Wilson if he looks to be the starting striker for Newcastle rather than Isak. If Wilson is still injured and Isak is banging in goals, then you can get in Isak instead rather than Højlund. So a lot of different good options there as well. Muniz, again, is just going to be a nice backup option for this run-in for a really cheap price, basically. So a lot of flexibility here. I wouldn't really lock in any transfers at this point, because obviously this is pretty far into the future. We're talking about May now, 2 months into the future. So yeah, I think this team is looking really strong regardless for game 38. So seeing as you don't have the bench boost in 37, it could be a potential plus for you. You also have the triple captaincy chip. I haven't even mentioned that, but I think if I had triple captaincy chip left, and especially if I didn't have bench boost, the bench boost possibility in Game Week 37, I think Son at home to Man City and at home to Burnley in Game Week 37 is your best bet for captaincy for the rest of the season, basically. Burnley at home is basically the really, really good fixture here, where he could get a hat-trick, for example. But even against Man City at home, Spurs have a pretty good track record at home against Man City, and Son is a player that shows up in big games, so I think he is the best triple captaincy choice you have for the rest of the season. You have a possibility with Palmer as well in Game Week 36, Tottenham at home and West Ham at home, also two really nice fixtures, two teams that aren't the best defensively, so you could go with that as triple captaincy choice instead. So it's basically up to you if you want to choose Palmer in 36 or Son in 37. I think both are really good options. Could as well potentially do Salah in Game Week 34. That could also be an option. So yeah, that's also something you could consider. So a lot of good triple captaincy options, I think, in general these weeks. But yeah, maybe Salah. I don't know. Salah is usually really good as well. So 3 really good options you could choose for yourself, basically. But that's basically what I would do if I was in charge of your team. And let's move on to the third team in this whole video, basically. So the third team is Justin Long's team, and like we said initially, he has all his chips left, which is going to be really useful for the end of the season. So we're going to have the triple captaincy choice here as well, but then we have the bench boost in 37, so that eliminates that possibility. We're also going to free hit in Game Week 34 as well. So I think for Game Week 36, out of the 3 captaincy options or triple captaincy options we just looked at, I think Game Week 36 for Palmer stands out as the option basically for this team. But let's once again go into FPL.team and check out this team. And immediately it's looking completely different, because I think if you go back to this team that you had in Game Week 30, like I said previously, I think this pretty easily is a wildcard team, or a team that you could wildcard away from. And this is what I would do if I was wildcarding in Game Week 30, basically. I presented this team pretty much, I think it's the same team, apart from Bradley, who's a late inclusion now that we know that Trent is out for the next 2 game weeks. This is pretty much the same team that I presented to you guys in the weekly wildcard draft this week. So yeah, I think it's a really strong team, and I think it has a really good outlook for the future as well. But yeah, this is Game Week 30. We have Salah at home to Brighton. I think that's the best fixture. You also have Palmer against Burnley, really nice. Luton at home for Son. Yeah, talked about these players quite a lot now already. Garnacho versus Saka is again a decision you have to make, but yeah, that's up to you as well. Yeah, let's move on to Game Week 31, and we are rolling in this game week as well. Saka at home to Luton, nice fixture for him. Yeah, pretty much the same players we've talked about a lot of times now. Bradley and Sheffield United at home, really nice fixture for him. And yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory, this team as well, with the role in Game Week 31. Game Week 32, we have 1 free transfer used for Justin Long's team, and that is Saka to Foden. Again, I think that's a pretty good choice at this point. If you're free hitting in 34, you don't really need Saka at this point. You've had him against Luton at home, and now you're moving him on for Foden, who I think has a better future than Saka, basically, for this team. So another pretty good team. Salah captaincy choice. Again, could go with Son instead. Doesn't really matter that much. You have a pretty similar team to the first team that I looked at with Domenico, DeLuca, and his team. It's pretty similar, just a couple changes here because of the money tied into players and stuff. And potential transfers in the future are going to change a little bit as well, as we'll see. Again, we have 2 transfers in Game Week 33, and we're going to use both of them this time with this team, and that would be Bradley to Van Heck, which is something we did with the other team as well, bringing in Van Heck for Gabriel in that instance, but now we bring him in for Bradley. And we also do Cunha to Højlund to have the Højlund-Isak Holland combo, the Norwegian, Swedish, Danish combo, the Scandinavian combo up front for this team, basically. So again, I think it looks pretty strong for Game Week 33 and beyond. And obviously, again, we're free hitting in 34. This is a similar team to what I presented earlier. There's just a little bit of a change. It's the same team. It's just I messed up with the order here. But yeah, pretty much the same team again. I mentioned this previously, why I prefer this team or like this team for Game Week 34 free hit as well. So yeah, I just mentioned that in this video, so go back to that if you haven't seen that already. Why I picked this team basically for the free hitting Game Week 34. Game 35, we are once again, we are rolling with this team. A pretty good team set out for this game week. In general, like the look of this team, all across the board. We also have Ait Nouri, who is saved earlier because he plays Luton at home in this fixture. And you don't really need to sell him before this point because this is a really nice fixture for him where you need to bench, for example, Udogi playing against Arsenal and Gusto playing against Aston Villa, pretty tough fixture. So it's nice to have someone like Aït-Nouri who could step in and be a defender for this game week as well. Then in game week 36, we have two free transfers, and we've used both of them. One of them is doing Salah to Maddison to free up some money because I think Trippier is a pretty nice player to have at this point. So we're bringing in Trippier for Aït-Nouri for this game week because Aït-Nouri is not going to have the double game week in 37. And this is also where we're going to triple captain Son. We're not going to vice captain him as well. That's one of the flaws with this website. You can sometimes get captaincy and vice captaincy on the same player. But again, it's down to Palmer or Son in this game week, I think. I think maybe I would go with Palmer as the captaincy choice. But again, it depends on the form and all that stuff in game week 36, which is far away from now. So yeah, this is just a general outlook of the team, and I think it looks pretty damn good for game week 36 as well. But again, we have the Gusto thing. Maybe he has lost his place to Reece James at this point. Could be an option maybe to swap him out, but Lascelles is not the worst replacement either against Burnley away. You're already hoping for a clean sheet for Trippier in this game anyway. So if Gusto doesn't play, it's not the worst thing in the world. You'll still be able to get Lascelles in and have a pretty good team. But yeah. Game week 37, we are rolling actually and using the bench boost still because we have 15 double game week players this game week. Don't really need to make any changes. Again, you could do the Gusto to Disasi move, for example, if you need someone like that, or a different defender altogether. You actually have a City spot open here, so maybe you go with Gusto to someone like Stones if he's looking nailed on for City there, or Ake or Walker or anyone that's looking nailed for City. You could do that transfer as well if Gusto is in doubt for some reason. Well, the reason would be Reece James at this point, but yeah, you have a lot of flexibility here, but I also like to preserve flexibility for game week 38 and have two free transfers, because that means you can bring in Salah back for this game week. By downgrading Isak to João Pedro, you will have enough money to go from let me check my notes again to see which midfielder I actually sold with this team. You'll be able to go from Foden to Salah if you want to do that. Foden has West Ham at home, which is a pretty good fixture, but again, it really depends on what happens with the title race. Maybe Man City are out of the title race. Maybe they're going to be destined to be third place, and they're going to use a really weak team in game week 38. Maybe they've already won the league by far, like they did last season, where they rested a lot of players in the final game. And you need Salah, who's probably going to be gunning for the golden boot at this point, because that's pretty important for Salah. So yeah, I think getting Salah in here is really nice. You could also go with someone else in attack. You could go with someone like Chris Wood, for example. You have 6.1 to spend here. Chris Wood could be nice. Fofana could be nice against Nottingham Forest at home. Muniz could be nice here as well. Like, you have a lot of decent options in this game week for the final striker position. A lot of cheap strikers have good fixtures this week, and that really bodes well for getting Salah into your team as well in this game week. But if you really like some cheap or more pricey attacker, you could also go with Saka rather than Salah this game week. It also depends again what happens with the title race and how important these games are for these teams and how they do in the Champions League and all that stuff. So again, just be flexible and keep that in mind for game week 38. But having two free transfers and the possibility of getting Salah in for this game week, it seems like a really nice thing for me for this team. So that's pretty much it for this team as well for the foreseeable future. So let's move on to the fourth and final team of this whole video. Finally, we're going to talk about Tom Kirkman's team, Saka Rice, which has used free hit in game week 39, which means that they don't have free hit available for game week 34. And that means we're going to use the usual tactic of dead ending into game 34 and then wildcarding out of that team in game 35. And in this instance, we actually have bench boost available and no triple captaincy chip left. So that means bench boosting in game 37, where we most likely want to have 37. We most likely want to have 15 players that have double game weeks in game 37. So you have to keep that in mind for the wildcard. So once again, let's go into FPL.team and look at this team for game 30. And again, we're doing one free transfer in this instance, and that would be a defensive transfer going from Vladimir Soufal to Gusto. Soufal plays against Newcastle away, and not an ideal fixture for a defender. But Gusto playing against Burnley at home is a really nice fixture for him. And yes, Gusto is someone that you could bring in on a wildcard in game 35 instead. You could bring in someone like Aït-Nouri instead at this point, but we want to save the money for a move in game 31. As you'll see in game 31, we are looking to bring in Salah and Darwin once again, and you don't have enough money in the bank if you go for Aït-Nouri, who's a bit more expensive than Gusto. So that's why we've done that in this instance. We have Salah and Darwin again for game week 31, kind of similar to what we did in the previous team that has no free hit in game week 34. And again, we have a pretty similar team starting here. We just have Ake, who's a bit of a differential thing, and we also have Neto in goal, which is slightly different. Also Saliba rather than Gabriel or Ben White. Not ideal. I think White and Gabriel are better than Saliba currently, with more attacking threat, but it's not something you would use like a -4 hit to fix, I guess, either, because Saliba is still a really good player in his own right. So yeah, I think this is a pretty good team for Game Week 31. Then in Game Week 32, we are rolling using no free transfers at all, just saving the same team. We even have some pretty good substitutions here with Sabarni against Luton away and Ake against Crystal Palace away, if need be. If one of the defenders drops out, for example, we need them to play. But all in all, a really strong team as usual, with Foden, Palmer, Saka, and Salah, which is going to be a mainstay, as you've seen. Don't have Son in this team, which is the interesting part, I guess. So that was actually something that happened in Game Week 31. But we have Son for the Luton at home fixture in 30, and we're selling him for Salah to have enough money to bring in Salah for Game Week 31 and having Sheffield United at home. I think that's more important than having Son, who plays West Ham away and then has a pretty easy fixture against Nottingham Forest at home in this instance. But I think Salah is just a more important player to have, even if you're captaining someone like Palmer, for example, this game week. Son is potentially the best captaincy option in this game week, so you could again do like the hokey switch back to Salah from Salah to Son, but I don't think it's worth it personally. I think it's more important to save your transfers so you can have more transfers in the future and have as good of a Game Week 34 team as you possibly can do without using a free hit in Game Week 34, basically. So yeah, back again for Game Week 33, and let's look at the options here with the transfer, and it's actually selling a Spurs player in Pedro Porro and buying Ben White. So yeah, doing that here, also getting use of Adingra, who's stuck on the bench normally with his team, but playing against Burnley away in Game Week 33. That's a nice opportunity for Adingra, I think. You could choose Solanke over him against Man United at home, but yeah, it's just something you have to decide between Adingra and Solanke, I think, in this instance, because I think the rest of the team is really, really nice for Game Week 33. Then we move on to Game Week 34, and we have 2 free transfers to use, and we are using both free transfers as well, and that is Foden to Eze, saving some money there, and doing Adingra to Elise, and actually being able to attack this fixture even as someone without a free hit. You will be able to have these double Crystal Palace midfielders. You could also go with someone like Sarabia, for example, from Wolves at this point. They also have a double game week against Arsenal and Bournemouth. So if Elise is not back fully fit, I think that's probably what I would lean towards doing as well. Instead, but yeah, a lot of options there. You don't have Trent Alexander-Arnold in this instance, don't have enough money for that. So yeah, for some cost-cutting reasons, or you don't have enough money because you have players like Ake, for example, spending some of the cash that you would normally use to bring in someone like Trent Alexander-Arnold, for example. So yeah, you could potentially do Sarabia. I don't think you have enough money, even if you do Sarabia rather than Elise here. I don't think you have enough money to do Ake to Trent either. So yeah, we'd have to just go without Trent in this instance, but that's okay as well. Moving on to Game Week 35, and we have used our wildcard. And again, this time we have to keep in mind that we need, or at least ideally want 30. Again, I almost said that. We want 15 double Game Week players in Game Week 37. So that's what we've done with this team. Stones in defense, you could do Ake again, just to keep the same team. But I think Stones, if everyone's fully fit, which is what I'm sort of basing this also off of, if everyone's fully fit to play, I think Stones is still my favorite Man City defender, both for nailed onness, if City have something to play for, and in terms of attacking potential with Stones playing more as like a midfield type of role who gets forward a little bit. I think Stones has some untapped potential that he hasn't really been able to show that much the last few seasons. So yeah, pretty nice wildcard here with, of course, triple Chelsea, Petrovic, Palmer, and Gusto, triple Spurs with Son, Madison, and Udogie. That's going to be really nice for Game Week 36 when you have double game weeks for both of those guys, or all of those guys basically, both of those teams I should say. And we have a pretty good team on top of that as well with the triple up from Newcastle with Trippier against Burnley away, Gordon against Burnley away, and Isak against Burnley away, which is really nice. We have Onana, Højlund, and Dalot from Man United all benched in this game week, but you could go with a different goalkeeper than Onana and have Garnacho, for example, rather than Gordon. It's also a possibility here on the wildcard in Game Week 35. But we're rolling in Game Week 36 with this team into Game Week 37, doing 1 free transfer in Game Week 37, and that would be... I'm not actually quite sure what I've done here because I haven't even written it down in my notes, but 1 free transfer has been used here. But again, it's just because you have 2 transfers, and at this point of the season, a lot of things will have changed. So yeah, you could basically use your transfer to do whatever you'd like to do in this game week. But yeah, you have a free transfer you can use here just in case you need it. Like I mentioned previously, maybe if Gusto's lost his place, maybe if Stones is injured again, maybe you want to change something else for some other reason. Maybe Isak is out of favor and you want to bring in a Chelsea player. You could even go Gusto to someone else in defense and then buy Nkunku up front if Nkunku is back fit and playing this game week as well. It's another decent option here as well. So with 2 free transfers, you can do a lot of different things. But regardless of transfers here, you have 15 players playing double game weeks, and that's really nice for the bench boost in Game Week 37. Then again, you also have 2 free transfers in Game Week 38, and once again, we're trying to get in Salah for this game week. We're doing that by selling Isak and getting in Muniz or Wood or any of the other strikers that I mentioned previously, Fofana. A lot of good cheap striker options here as well, and then you'll be able to get in Salah in the midfield in this instance. And you would actually sell Gordon to get Salah, so you have enough money in the bank to sell someone like Gordon who plays Brentford away and not the best fixture for him. It's not Gordon is here. What am I talking about? But yeah, either way, that's a bit jumbled up. But I sold someone in midfield and brought in Salah. I think it's actually Foden, but I don't think I could afford Foden with that. Maybe you can, but yeah. Either way, I think Salah is a pretty important player to have this game week. And that's pretty much my general outline for what to do with this team as well. And with that, I've gone through every single team, spent some time on 4 different teams with 4 different structures, 4 different chip strategies, basically. So I hope I sort of touched on any of you guys' teams as well. I know Kevin is a different case, my co-host on FPL School podcast. He has basically no chips left apart from the bench boost. So that's going to be interesting to see what he's going to do. So maybe I'll try to do the similar thing with him on the FPL School podcast and see what he should do in the upcoming game weeks, basically. But that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope all 4 of you guys who sent in your team IDs have watched this video and gotten some nice notes and stuff. And hopefully you get to end the season on a really good high note and have a really good rank that you can be proud of after the end of the season. And maybe you'll win your mini leagues as well because of my advice. That would be really nice to see. I know at least one guy who was watching, Steve Watts, if you're watching, really nice to see your comments on the video about how you basically just watch my content, I think, because at least in your leagues, it says that you only follow my league and no other content creators. So you're dominating your mini league, which is really nice to see. So for anyone like that, watching my content and me helping you win your mini league, really happy to hear that. So please tell me in the comments if you're one of those guys. And please tell me in the comments as well if you'd like to see some other videos like this in the future potentially. I could do this again in Game Week 35 potentially when people are on a wildcard, or if they have just used their free hit in 34. That could be a nice place to revisit it. And if you have a different team to this as well and you want your team graded for the next, or not graded, but like sort of have an outlook for the last few game weeks of the season, maybe I'll do this again in Game Week 35. But until that point, I hope you enjoy your day and your week, and you have green arrows and everything good that comes your way. And with that, I'll bid you adieu for this video. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.